This suggests, a level of planning and forethought and possible inside information about things that I think is really disturbing. Now, that, I think, needs to be examined. Number two, the next thing is, this attack here, remember, this happened, Rowan and Caroline, after that Gaza ceasefire. And remember, that was when Anthony Albanese, in his just utter clueless naivete about this whole situation, said, well, hopefully this dials down the temperature. Yeah. Well, no, it doesn't. Because this brings me, guys, to the third point here. There is this attempt on some people on the left, including Anthony Albanese, to act like there are two separate phenomena here. Anti-Zionism, anti-what Israel is doing to secure its own peace, but that's not anti-Semitism, and actual rank anti-Semitism. And I'm sorry, but the two are completely co-mingled, and you cannot separate one from the other. And so this is why I think the real shame has to be put on the federal Labor government. It is because at every single turn, despite mouthing good words about, this is not the sort of thing we do in Australia, as Anthony Albanese keeps saying, from the start of his career, he has been against Israel's security. He was one of the founders of Parliamentary Friends of Palestine. He has, through his foreign minister, Penny Wong, driven an incredibly activist and hostile foreign policy against Israel, voting against it in the UN, condemning Israel for doing things like going into Rafah. Israel would have never had the success against Iran, against Sinwar, against all of these 7 fronts that Israel is fighting on right now, had it taken the advice of the Albanese government. And that is the crucial point here. And then all of that feeds back into what we're seeing on the streets.
Yes. I'll have a lot more to say about that at
Caroline.
10 o'clock.
You want to see later in the show, Caroline will be talking about this. Absolutely must watch that later in the show. But let me just say, we need leadership in Australia. This is a very dark and ugly period where Australian Jews are now increasingly terrified. Where is the leadership? Albanese and Wong deserve to be thrown on the scrap heap of history, never to be mentioned again. We need proper leadership in this country to put an end to this disgusting behaviour. And people like Clementine Ford, Guy Pearce and the rest of you, you sicken me. You're repulsive. You are un-Australian.
Can I say one more thing on this? Sorry, there's one more thing on this. When the police do make arrests, there was an arrest the other day for another separate attack.
Finally.
The police need to release the names of the people that are responsible.
And the communities, and if they are not, if possible, deport them or put them behind bars and shame the communities the individuals who have enabled this to happen, because they are there. We know where they are. We know where they're living. We know the groups that they're parts of. Put them behind bars or deport them and get on with it and do a proper job. Now, let's move on. Okay,
we hear so much about social cohesion, and all of this hiding behind the shadows about what's really going on here is the worst thing for it.
Absolutely.